Hey guys, thanks for watching. I am heading over to Eddy's brother Dave's place. Now, if you're new here, what that means is back a few months ago, I made a promise to my YouTube viewers that once I reached 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, I would film a video of where my husband Eddy and our cows came from, which is where his older brother Dave currently milks. So we're on our way there. I'm going to give you guys a tour, talk to Dave, get the ins and outs of what it was like working with Eddy from a brotherly perspective. And yeah, I'm super excited for it. Some of you have reached out and said, hey, where's the video? Like, you promised a tour. So here it is. It's coming. Now, while we're on the way, I thought I would just give you a bit of a history or backstory about the family dynamics here in Eddy's family. And also with Eddy and I and how we met and everything. So, Eddy grew up on a dairy farm, born and raised on a dairy farm, the dairy farm we're going to, which is pretty neat. And Dave will tell you a bit more about the history of that farm. I'm not confident enough to mention anything about it now, but Eddy was born there. I was not born on a farm. I was born and raised close to Toronto. And Eddy and I actually met in the Dominican. We're both on holidays in the Dominican, and he was with a friend group. I was with my cousin, and long story short, we hung out a lot. His friend group and my cousin and I, during the week we were there, and really hit it off, and we all stayed in touch when we got back. Again, long story short, after we got married, Eddy started farming full-time with Dave. About 6 years they worked together. And so Eddy would commute from our place to Dave's place, and yeah, they each had their own roles on the farm. A year and a half ago, Eddy and I were able to build our own barn and separate off from Dave, so all the brothers are now separate, and we have our own thing going, as you know. And if you don't know, if you're new here, I encourage you to continue watching the videos. They're not all like this one. There's a lot of us just doing chores on the farm. We're learning alongside you in all things dairy farming, and we are striving to bridge the gap from farm to table. So this is Dave. This is Eddy's brother. I'm sure you can see the resemblance. So Dave, why don't you give us some history on the farm here, and then we'll get into a tour.
Yeah, okay. Well, this is Costal and Holsteins. It's a family farm, and it's been run for almost 70 years now, since 1955. This is where my grandfather started. We are third generation farmers here. My grandfather started milking cows here, and it was run as a partnership for a number of years through my dad and his brothers, and then my mom and dad bought out the farm, and here we are today as third generation running this farm.
And we have Steven here. You guys remember him from this video?
I hope so.
He's still here. He hasn't left yet, except for a minor trip back home over Christmas.
Yes, see the family and all my friends.
So maybe we'll get an update on his situation in another video.
Sure.
So here's our milk house. Our milking system is over here. All our milkers hang in the sink. All the milk from the cows flows through this system here, pumps it through a filtering system, and into our bulk tank where it's cooled. Okay, so here we are in our main milking barn. All our cows, our grown cows, are in this barn that produce the milk for our herd. We milk 80 cows, give or take, and they get milked twice a day, every day here. It takes about 2 hours to maybe closer to 3 hours with one person. If it's two people, around 2 hours with milking and cleanup. We milk at 5:30 in the morning and about 5 in the evening. Into our dry cow and pregnant heifer barn. It's a freestall facility, and we've got all our calving pens where the cattle calve out as well in here. On the right hand side here, all these cattle are pregnant, and they're either heifers that are 6 months to 8 months pregnant, and they're all pastured on freestalls all year round. And on the left side here we have calving pens and pre-feeding group for cattle that are closer to calving. Anyone 3 weeks prior to calving is on the left side of the barn. Over here we have a fresh heifer that just calved a few days ago. We bed the pens with sawdust, and the cattle will calve out in these pens. We'll bucket milk the cows or heifers for 3-4 days just to get them started before they go off to the tie stall barn. This barn is scraped out with a skid steer, so it's rather labor friendly. So back here, as said before, these are all the pregnant heifers and dry cows. They're on free stalls, and if you can see, all our free stalls are bedded with sand. That gives an extra level of comfort to the cattle, but it's also for udder health. So the udders are always in dry sand, which really avoids things like mastitis. If you look towards the back, you can see the doors open. The cattle have access to pasture all year around, and they can choose to be inside, but they can choose to be outside, whatever they want. Back here we have another portion of tie stalls, and we can milk cows in the stables, but in the back we also have more calving pens for pre-feeding dry cows and fresh cows. Back here we have dry cow space, and we'll pre-feed dry cows in these pens. We'll also calve them out in these pens, and we can milk. If you look up here, we've got a section of milk line that goes over. We're able to bucket milk for fresh cows, or if there's any sort of situation going on, there's lots of space for that. So as you can see in this barn, and the whole tie stall, we bed with wheat straw. This section of the barn, along with the pens, all get scraped out with a skid steer. It's very labor friendly, and it keeps the cows really nice and dry. So I'll take you over to the main barn again. So now that we're back in the front milking barn, I just wanted to talk to you guys a bit about the past and where our herd came from. So obviously, as I said before, my grandfather purchased this farm in 1955. Always passionate about dairy and breeding cattle, but coming to my dad and his brother's generation, when they took over the farm, those guys put a lot into breeding cattle. And if you look around, you can certainly see some of the high quality genetics that we still hold today. My dad and his brothers were very passionate about breeding cattle, and we're still holding to those standards today. We do a lot of programs to keep us on track with that. Okay, so we have a criteria that we live by, and we still breed high type, and we breed lots of milk in our herd. These are things that complement good farm management. So these are things that I've been taught at a young age that were important, and we're carrying them on today. Here are some of the pens at the end of the tie stall. One of the things, we'll use them for calving cows. They're often empty because we don't really have a lot of cow problems, but if we have an issue, this is a nice set of pens to use. The milk line goes over it, so it makes for easy milking. A cow like this right here, she actually is just a very crampy cow. She's an older cow that can't get comfortable in a stable, but she's milking a lot of milk, so it's the kind of cow that I don't mind having around for a while. So in here we've got our young calves. This is a robotic calf feeder. Comstock Agri has helped set this up. It's a Forester calf robot. We start the calves off in calf hutches when they're born, and we'll feed them for 3 or 4 days until they get going on their bottles. Once they're fully drinking on the bottles, that's when we'll introduce groups of calves to these pens and get them going on the robot. And they have free access to milk, water, and feed. They can drink milk all day, up to 24 liters a day. So basically they can drink as much as they want at any time of day. So as you saw before, we have a TMR mixer. We feed the cows a full TMR ration. It's made of corn silage and haylage, dry corn, soy canola blends, corn distillers, and minerals, and then we mix water in it. We feed out of bunk silos and bags on our farm. I've switched to that system simply for convenience, as all of my family, my brothers run their own operations. As you know, Eddy and Lauren run their own farm, and Eddy was a crucial part of this farm in getting daily tasks done. So when Eddy had left, one of my big focuses was on where I could save time. So some of these feed changes and storage around it is why I did that.
Okay, Dave, so tell me the truth. What was it really like working with Eddy?
Well, now that's a loaded question. You want the truth about it? My opinion of your husband, all joking aside, working with Eddy was awesome. We worked here together at Costa Home for 5 years. When Eddy came home, we had a plan in place to build the farm that you and Eddy are at. That dream started before he came home, and we worked together to make that happen. Eddy and I, for the most part, in my opinion, I feel like we saw eye to eye on most things, and anything that we didn't agree on usually didn't matter that much, and we just didn't really talk about it too much. Our main goal was to start that new farm, and we wanted to get there. Getting cows to perform well and running the farm well was really what mattered, and that's what we did for 5 years. Some of our goals, I guess, also included our family, seeing our children grow up, and seeing them so close and having good relationships among one another is something that was important to us also. Our roles on the farm were, we always kept the same stuff. Eddy was always in charge of feeding. I was in charge of a lot of bedding and cleaning of the cattle and stuff like that. Milking roles were shared. At that point, my mom and dad were involved a little more as well. So throughout the 5 years that we worked together, we were really focused on obviously getting in on the new entrant program for Eddy and Lauren's farm. One of the things that we really focused on that point was breeding a lot of cattle. So we switched to sex semen, and we started breeding for a lot of heifers. That in turn got us ready for this new farm setup, and that was one of our common goals that we had, was push the milk performance as much as we could, but also our number of heifers on the farm. That put us in a position where Eddy and Lauren didn't have to buy any cattle. We were able to start the new farm all on our own young stock, and that transition went very well. Throughout the years, getting along with Eddy, I never really felt it was that hard. Simply just going back to common goals, and I think at the end of the day, like, coming out of a relationship like we had of working together and coming out of it like this where we have a good relationship, is you just need to love your family. You need to love your brothers more than the farms that you're doing, because at the end of the day, the farms, they're just farms. But I am proud to say today, Eddy and Lauren and myself and my wife and our children have an awesome relationship, and we get together all the time. And we were able to pull this off, starting a new farm and coming through it as family and leaving as family.